Good afternoon, and thank you so much for joining us for our presentation. So for this whole business challenge, we decided to split these challenges into two, and we will be addressing each one of them during this presentation. So let's start with our first challenge. How do we position Mercedes-Benz as the preferred choice of SUV models in the GCC? First, we started wondering why. Why an SUV? Why Mercedes? Why not other brands? And why an electric automobile? Why an SUV? So we received valuable information from Mercedes-Benz regarding the most important drivers for users to buy an SUV, or what makes a person buy or switch to an SUV. And we found that growing family need and also multi-purpose for city, travel and family and personal use were two of the five main drivers. So we can conclude that there is actually a family orientation for buying an SUV. So why Mercedes-Benz? In terms of consideration, Mercedes-Benz has a very good position in UAE, especially influenced by the G-Class. So Mercedes-Benz as a brand itself has a very good recognition in the market, but that's not the case right now in Saudi Arabia. So there has to be a focus on raising this topic for that region specifically. Why not other brands? As we can see in this chart, Mercedes-Benz is the only brand that can be located right in the middle of the other relevant choices. So this gives us a great opportunity to draw customers from other brands towards Mercedes-Benz. Why an electric automobile? Regarding why an electric automobile, we were wondering what makes a person think about buying an electric automobile, what kind of features a person would like to find in an electric car, and what kind of concerns does a person have regarding an electric car. So we went to the market and we did a qualitative study. For this qualitative study, we went online and we did 33 online surveys for previous or current SUV owners. And one of the most important insights that we found is that people are actually concerned about size. Size is one of the main topics that people mention in the most important reason for buying an SUV. We also went to the market and looked for current car owners from the other competitor brands, and we approached to them on the street and we were asking them their thoughts about the following topics: worldwide trend of electric cars, electric car features, and their concerns for switching to electric cars in the near future. The insights were also interesting. People have already experience with electric cars. They find them good and sexy and silent. They will be willing to follow instructions from the authorities in terms of switching to electric cars if they have to. In this region, people care a lot about size because they have a fear of driving in these highways in small cars. And people are also concerned about the driving experience. So if you take away the vibration and the noise, they won't feel like buying an e-car. Also, they see competitor Tesla as an upbeat brand, so as a reference from the market. People don't want to be concerned about the battery having a severe battery damage, so they want batteries to be part of the service. They also see the infrastructure as a limitation, and this is a very interesting concern. What happens in case of an accident? And this is a big question that we haven't faced, and this is a very powerful insight that we found in the market. So our conclusions on challenge number 1 were the following. Can Mercedes-Benz shift the prevailing consumer mindset in the region? And the first concern that we had was battery in terms of charging time, lack of trust. People relate e-car battery behavior or expected battery behavior to the ones that they have currently on their cell phones, lifetime and capacity regarding range, and having this severe battery damage and having to pay a high cost for replacing it. The concern number two was infrastructure. Home charging, especially in apartment buildings, and having to set up a special connection for charging your car. Then infrastructure for electric vehicles in terms of finding charging stations in roads, malls, and streets. And regarding the concern number three, people are worried about performance in terms of speed, power, and acceleration, and losing the driving experience. People want to lose the engine revving, sounds, gear shifts, and vibrations that they currently have with common cars. So our way forward on challenge number one is the following. First, communicate and engage. We did research for Mercedes-Benz and compared it to Tesla, and this is what we found. When we Googled Mercedes-Benz latest news, we found 15.5 million results, but with Tesla, we found 25.8 million results, almost 40% more. But when we looked for Mercedes-Benz car battery or Tesla car battery, the results were the following. For Mercedes-Benz, 156,000 results, and for Tesla, we found 1.5 million results, almost 900% more news regarding Tesla batteries. So our recommendation is to start communicating and engaging people in terms of technological advancements, alliances, tests, user opinions, user experiences, and upcoming models. Second, compare and test. And this is very important for users to compare the behavior from the electric car to the regular cars that they use. So first, we recommend to compare and test Mercedes-Benz models in terms of electric versus gasoline, in terms of performance, equivalences, driving experience. And then we suggest to compare and test Mercedes-Benz, but with the competitors in terms of features, technological advantages, services, and especially warranty. So now we follow to challenge number two. We found that 4.6 billion dirhams is the estimated economical loss from petrol that is wasted and people's time spent on congestions. People in Dubai spend in average 80 hours per year stuck in traffic. We found that so far U-Drive and e-car car sharing services have been used more than 365,000 times. Only 0.02% of Dubai cars are used for smart car sharing services. 540 people in Dubai out of every 1,000 own a car. So Dubai can be labeled as an overcrowded city of cars. And for each car that goes to the shared electric mobility services in Berlin, actually 15 cars stopped being used, 15 private cars. So we were wondering about the expected electrical mobility industry in the region by 2025, and we were thinking about Mercedes as an electric mobility service provider. The first one, the expected electrical mobility industry, we found that the Dubai Taxi Corporation has partnered with Uber and Tesla to launch Uber One. RTM is aiming to replace the fleet of 10,000 taxis and 5,000 luxury cabs with energy efficient vehicles by 2021, being these hybrid or fully electrical. And the aim is to make electric cars reach 2% of Dubai's vehicular fleet by 2020 and 10% by 2030. So the expectations about growth are bigger right now in the region. So regarding Mercedes as an electric mobility service provider, we were wondering two things. Are there any electric mobility service providers in the region And what kind of appeal will a consumer have towards mobility services? So we found that Karim is operating a fleet of Model S Tesla. So right now, Tesla is in the market. We found that share now is expected to be in the region before 2025, which is a very good news for Mercedes-Benz. And then we found out that RTA recently doubled its initial 200 car rental fleet for smart car sharing services. So that means that this market is already receiving these kind of services in a good way. Then we were wondering what kind of appeal will a GCC consumer have towards mobility services. So we did a quantitative study. So our target group were Dubai residents above the age of 18. We conducted 72 surveys through social media platforms, and they were asked how often they use the mobility service on an average week. Our findings were the following. We found that 3% of people only use rental car services. But if you see the chart on the right, you can find that these are actually the heavy users, followed by own car and followed by other means of transport, which means that the highest potential that we have right now is between these people that rent cars, people that would eventually switch from their own car to shared car services and other means of transport that people can actually switch to electric mobility services. So our recommendations will be the following. First, roll out the Share Now service in Dubai as soon as possible. Include SUV vehicles in this fleet of Share Now services. And approach RTA in order to include ShareNow as another operator of the smart car sharing service that they currently have. Okay, we were going to switch off regarding value. What things does a current Mercedes-Benz client define as value? And we went to find our target users. So we have our first buyer persona, Beth. Beth is a 40-year-old woman that is successful at her work, and she is heavily busy because she has 2 kids. Beth uses mobility services to take her children to school, and then she goes to the office. She'd rather spend quality time with her family rather than spending driving or stuck in traffic. Then we have Sophia. Sophia is 33 years old. She came to Dubai 4 years ago to study her MBA, and she decided to stay. She loves nature and worries about the environment, and she doesn't like to stress, so she uses mobility services to take her wherever she wants. Then meet Kyle. Kyle is 24 years old, and he came to Dubai 6 years ago with his parents, and he's currently working for a marketing agency. He likes going to parties, and he considers himself a responsible person, so he doesn't like to drive while he's out. He only wants to worry about having fun and not worrying about parking or driving or going back home after having some drinks. Then we have Cheng. Cheng is a 47-year-old male from Shanghai that has come to Dubai because he worked for a prestigious bank. He has only lived in the city for 2 years, and on a weekly basis he uses the services from a driver that he has. But he likes to go out with his family during weekends, so that's why he likes to drive an SUV for going to the desert or spending quality time with his family. So after identifying what is valuable for these people, we did a summary. And these kind of people or our potential users, they don't like to stress about the car. They would like to save time. They would like to be secure. Security is very important for them. They will like to worry about welfare, but not for themselves. They also like welfare for their loved ones. In terms of user experience, it's valuable for them to achieve their destination safely. They would like to have these mobility services, apps or services easy to use, and value must be generated for each target user because they give so much value to this kind of experience, but tailor-made experiences. So addressing our third problem on how can Mercedes-Benz differentiate with mobility service providers, we found that users give too much value to their time and they would like to avoid driving. They would like to do a more valuable activity while commuting and using these shared services. Car users don't want to disconnect from their digital environment while commuting, and Mercedes-Benz e-car users will be willing to pay more for a richer experience while commuting. So our way forward on challenge number 2 will be the following. First, redefinition of value. Second, increase electrical mobility offer. Third, improve user experience. Which drive us to our main pillars for our scope. First, redefinition of value. Second, Mercedes-Benz has to be a supplier of happiness and experiences. Third, there has to be a shared experience. And fourth, and most important, to redefine the concept of shared exclusivity. So, our target markets. Our proposal regarding the target market is the following. We consider 4 countries. And the countries that were considered were Saudi Arabia, UAE, Kuwait, and Qatar, but we found out that 87% of the market is represented by Saudi and UAE. Saudi has the highest potential due to the ban lifting for women to drive. Kuwait is already a mature market. So Saudi Arabia and UAE will be the chosen countries to move forward, and the best practices should be adapted or replicated in Kuwait and Qatar. So for wrapping up and for concluding this presentation, for each challenge we have 3 proposals. For the challenge number 1, we have communication and engagement. Second one, test and compare. Third one, regional focus. And for mobility services, we have redefinition of value, increase electric mobility offer, and improvement of user experience. Thank you so much for joining us, and we look forward to your comments.